Hello and welcome to the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. Thanks for coming back and joining us. I'm your co-host, Pat Curran. Joining me as always, Brad the Dad and Josh the Boss. Brad's going to join us a little later in the show as he's in Scottsburg, Indiana doing Brad the Dad things. If you want to follow us on Twitter at HattrickPat37 for myself, at Tack Jones for Brad, at FFJoshHughes for Josh. And if you want to follow the podcast for more hot takes and see what the guys have to say during the week, follow us on Twitter at EmptyWagonFF. We're all over social media, thanks to our great partners, Blue Spade Productions. Follow them on Twitter at Blue Spade Pro. They're the reason we get our name out there online and all these great social media followers. Before we get this wagon rolling, get into what we're going to talk about here today, which, by the way, is the AFC East, for those listening.
So exciting.
It is exciting because they have two playoff teams out of this division, in case anyone forgot about that.
On accident.
All right. Well, before we get into our podcast breaking down the AFC East this week, we'd just like to give a shout-out to those that follow the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast on an Android device. Do us a favor, go to the Google Play Store and download Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all your favorite podcasts directly on your Android devices. That's Podcast Republic app. I use the app. I absolutely love it. Search all the podcasts I want to listen to, set them as favorites, and then they're simply one click away on a great app. Make sure to set our podcast, the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast, as a favorite so you don't miss any episodes or hot takes from the guys here at Empty Wagon. Again, that's Podcast Republic, available on your Android device. All right, now we're going to get this wagon rolling, get into the fantasy football topics, and hand this reins of this wagon over to Josh the Boss. Josh, take it away.
Okay, so the first thing that we have to talk about, obviously, is Andrew Luck.
Oh, yeah. Obviously.
Andrew Luck threw a football, guys.
Yeah, it was a Nerf football about 3 yards.
It happened. It was very relevant. It was actually a high school football. He is not throwing the Duke yet, but gives me good hope for my boy and T.Y. Hilton. So
what's he throwing, like the Prince or something? The gesture?
I'm not exactly sure what the high school is called. If it's not the Duke, maybe the Duchess. I'm going to go with the Duchess. We'll see with that.
I like that. And if that's not what it is, they should probably start that.
Well, if they coin it, I'm getting some credit for it. And then after that, we got some things happened. The Cowboys signed Zach Martin to a huge deal. He's making as much as the wide receiver, I think 12 in the league. He's like a top paid 10 wide receiver, something like that. So good for you, Zach Martin.
I was going to say, I wonder what his ADP is.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have one. So unless you guys are drafting offensive lineman, if that's the case, maybe he's the first one off the board. I'm not really sure. Nyheim Hines, apparently the Colts have big plans for him, which concerns me a little bit about Marlon Mack's value. Just keep your eye on that situation, obviously. The Raiders had a little bit of movement. They cut a backup quarterback, which no one cares about. They actually got their pick back. So apparently they made a deal to where if he doesn't make the team, we'll just keep our pick, and then nobody gets anything, and Christian Hackenberg becomes unemployed. So that's what happened with that.
So good for everyone except for Christian Hackenberg.
Well, he's not an NFL quarterback. I know that he is an NFL quarterback, but, everyone makes mistakes. Martavis Bryant, the Raiders think that he could be in a little bit of trouble. I'm not really worried about that.
No way.
Yeah.
Martavis Bryant, the good citizen?
Yeah, we'll get more in depth on that next week when we start talking about the AFC. Well, not next week. It'll be the week after, for the AFC West. Yeah. But
we'll address that, yeah.
Yeah, we'll address all that stuff. A lot of people are holding out. Like David Johnson's holding out right now.
That's part of camp, though. You got the holdouts. I
would like to see him there based on that injury that he had last year. I'd kind of like to know what would happen, but we'll see. Todd Haley has come out and said Tyrod Taylor is the leader of this team. Todd Haley is the offense coordinator for the Browns. They really want Tyrod to be the guy, and I guess if you want 2,900 yards and you don't want to win a lot of games, you want Tyrod as your quarterback. So there you go.
He's the more steady option.
You trying to build excitement, or are you trying to win games?
Okay, Cleveland?
Yeah.
I'm trying to win games because they didn't do that last year.
Well, they got a guy who I think can do both, and his name is Baker Mayfield.
In a little bit. Give it time.
All right. That's it for news.
That's all for the R's and R's, reports and rumors of the week. So now we're going to get into the AFC East breakdown. So just like we did last week with AFC North, we're going to talk about the four teams in this division, their fantasy relevant players, how they did last year, touch on that a little bit. Maybe we're going to talk about how they might do this year, if anything this year, depending on what team you get.
Yeah, some of these ain't.
Yeah, well, speaking on that, so Josh got to break down Miami Dolphins. Brad got to break down the New York Jets. Sorry, Brad. And then I got the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. So I'm going to kick it off here with the Buffalo Bills. And again, as I said in the beginning of the show, I'd just like to remind everyone that Buffalo was a playoff team last year at 9-7. The 6 seed that lost to Jacksonville, 10-7 in that wildcard game. No, everyone remember? Okay, so
Yeah.
for all you haters, I love to say how bad the AFC East is. They produced two playoff teams.
You're in the AFC East.
Yeah,
you're part of that.
I am. Well, all right, I'm a New England Patriots fan for all that don't know yet. So. Anyway, who knows what this season will hold for the Buffalo Bills?
Not the playoffs. I know that.
Well, they have a lot of unanswered questions at quarterbacks, and that's where we're going to start. Josh Allen, rookie quarterback. What? Do you already have something to say? I haven't even gotten
No, I have nothing to say.
Okay.
Yet. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Has impressed many in camp. Has a great arm, obviously. Good field vision. Still fresh. And still making rookie mistakes as he's throwing a lot of picks. But Allen enters minicamp at, right now, the projected QB3. And odds are he'll see some starts, actually, late in the season, I think. And he'll probably move up to QB2 because also on that depth chart is Nathan Peterman. Giving Josh Allen a fantasy grade this year of C. His projections here are 1335 in yards, 7 touchdowns, 8 picks. QBR is 67. His points are 70, and ADP is not drafted, which is pretty fair. I wouldn't draft Josh Allen because he's probably not going to start until late in the season.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Like, you know how a lot of times you're like, well, I'd love to have just the number one wide receiver on a team just because there's an opportunity, or number one running back on a team, even if it's like Isaiah Crowell, right? So a number one running back could have some value. Luckily, you don't have to do that with quarterbacks. So you can avoid everyone in Buffalo. So, yeah, that's how I feel about that.
All right. So you just want me to just skip quarterbacks altogether?
No. Keep going. Keep going. We got a job to do.
All right. You're not wrong. I mean, just don't draft Buffalo Bill quarterbacks. However, Josh Allen is an intriguing option if it's late in the season and you've just given up hope. And maybe you just want to start a rookie. Who knows? Anyway, ADP is not drafted. Points are 70, but that's kind of subjective because it really depends on what your league's doing with picks and touchdowns as far as what points you're getting for those. Nathan Peterman. Just going to give him a grade of a D minus.
F.
Yeah, probably an F. Terrible projections. He's third-string quarterback. Shouldn't even be talking about him. The only reason we're going to talk about him is because he makes a lot of noise. Monday through Saturday. And then when he gets there on Sunday and he plays in the game, you know what he does? Throws up a big goose egg for anything relevant other than picks, which if you're looking for 5 picks in one quarter, Nathan Peterman's your guy.
Yeah, if you're in a pick for points league and Peterman's starting, you might want to go out and get him.
Yeah. Other than that, keep away from him. He might get a start or two this year. Doesn't mean you need to start him. A.J. McCarron, probably going to be the number 1 quarterback here in Buffalo to start the season. Very well could finish there, depending on how Josh Allen develops. His projections this year are 1,800 yards, 9 touchdowns, 7 picks. Yards are pretty low because those projections are with Josh Allen taking over. He's probably going to have QBR of 78, and he's going to round out the season with about 101 points. Also, ADP is not drafted, which again, makes sense. Really shouldn't draft a Buffalo Bill quarterback. That's all I'm really going to say about them. If you want to take a flyer or something, maybe matchup dependent, if they're going up against a really bad defense, maybe take A.J. McCarron. But other than that, stay away from Buffalo Bill quarterbacks. Josh, anything to add?
No, I pretty much agree with that. That's I'm not looking to target any of those guys. So
yeah, I mean, unless you're a Bama fan, which you are clearly not. So
definitely not.
All right, running backs, and the only fantasy relevant player in Buffalo.
That's not fair.
Okay, who?
Kelvin Benjamin.
All right, only good fantasy relevant player that you might actually start.
There you go.
Every week is LaShawn McCoy. Best offensive weapon, most fantasy relevant player on the Bills. The most fantasy, not the only, just the most. Always puts up decent numbers, presents a threat to run and catch balls out of the backfield. Anchor to the offense, leader of the team. Entering his 10th NFL season, though. What do you think it's going to do for signs of wear and fatigue?
I think this is the last year of solid production from McCoy, to be honest with you. I think basically they don't have a lot of other options. I mean, they have Chris Ivory there, but he's never really been the guy. McCoy is going to be the offense once again. It's lack of options. Now, you got 3 quarterbacks in there who haven't started a lot or started at all. So, to me, they're going to lean on that check down. So, McCoy will still get some work there. He's a better pass catcher than Ivory. So, I like LaShawn McCoy a lot. And I think, what did you say his ADP was again?
16.
16? So, to me, that's actually a pretty good deal for a guy who I think is still going to put up pretty solid numbers. You got to worry about injuries with LaShawn McCoy, as always. But, yeah, he's a guy I still like this year. But this would probably be the last year for me.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially since he's going into his 10th year. So next year would be 11, which is pretty old for running back years. 2018 grade for me is a B+. Projections are 950 rushing yards for 5 rushing scores, 58 receptions on 430 yards, and 2 reception touchdowns. Points, he'll get you 178 points this season. We already talked about the ADP of 16. So that's LaShawn McCoy, and that's about our 5 minutes of sunshine on the Buffalo Bills, because now we're going to talk about Chris Ivory. Acquired from Jacksonville, decent 2017 campaign, but he was in a deep backfield over there in Jacksonville with TJ Yeldon and Leonard Fournette. So he didn't get too many carries, and when he did, he never really showed much of sparks. However, you can expect Ivory to get maybe some third down work, maybe some goal line work. Not a lot of running back depth, actually, in Buffalo. So picking up Ivory, if you need running back depth on your team, might not be a bad choice because he's probably number 2 running back in Buffalo. And McCoy can't be out there for every down. I mean, he can, but that's not smart on Buffalo's part.
My thing is that they're going to run the ball. They have to run the ball. You talked about their quarterbacks already. They're going to run it. Unfortunately, they're going to stack the box a lot against these 2 running backs. But like you said, Ivory is going to get some work, and so is McCoy. So even if you need a handcuff, I'm not saying he's a great handcuff, and I'm not saying go out and pick him up. But for someone that you might want to take a waiver wire claim on, or even one of your later picks, maybe your last pick of the draft, Ivory's not a bad. To me, Ivory's not a bad guy. I would take a shot at Chris Ivory.
Yeah, and his projected points and his ADP suggest last pick of the draft. Or picking him up in free agency.
Good, nailed it.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did. That's all I have to say about Chris Ivory and the Buffalo running backs. Now we're going to move on to Buffalo wide receivers. Kelvin Benjamin.
Woo!
All right, another decent talent, somewhat fantasy relevant wide receiver coming at you here out of Buffalo.
My chunky monkey. He's a hefty boy.
The problem with Kelvin Benjamin is no matter who's throwing him the ball, it's not going to be good. And for that, his grade's a B-. You can see him for 67 receptions to 937 yards, 7 touchdowns. He's going to get you about 134 points with an ADP of 105. So numbers aren't looking too bad. It is Kelvin Benjamin. But those quarterbacks. Oh,
they're bad.
They are bad, and I don't think they're going to help Kelvin Benjamin, who's never really had a breakout year.
No. I agree.
Some hot takes over here at Empty Wagon.
No, I agree. There's not a lot to argue about. I mean, you can sit there and say that Kelvin Benjamin could be the guy on this team, and he could be, but I don't like who's throwing him the ball. I like the tight end and the running backs a lot more on this team than the wide receivers. And it's not like I love those guys either, but Kelvin Benjamin, to me, he'll probably show up out of shape again. That's what he does. It looks like he's got a spare tire right there in the belly. He's definitely not wearing crop tops. So, to me, Kelvin Benjamin is not a guy I get excited about. I've never been excited about him. He actually doesn't have great hands. He's got a pretty high drop percentage. To me, the future is the guy that you're going to talk about next. This is the guy that I would actually be excited about.
Zay Jones, second season with Buffalo. Had an okay rookie campaign. Never really jumped off the stat sheet, though. Heated up a little, though, in the middle of the season, but cooled off. Yeah, I'm going to give him a 2018 grade, a C, and you can see him for 52 receptions, 670 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Points are going to be 89, And ADP at 183, so he is getting drafted. It is those later rounds. Again, points are going to vary depending on what your league is. So if you looked up standard projections, then you're going to be a little different than PPR.
Yeah, that's true. That is a fact. How would you like to elaborate on that maybe?
No.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and do it for you then. When he was doing his research for this, he had to redo all of it because he was looking at standard ADP. And in case you guys don't know, that's a little bit different. It's okay. We all make mistakes. We fixed it. No big deal.
It's insane. Who is doing standard?
People still do it.
Almost everyone does PPR now.
Well, hey, I'm not arguing. I'm just saying. But I like Zay Jones. I like Zay Jones a lot. To me, he's the guy who has more upside. Kelvin Benjamin, we've seen him. We know what he does. He's big, sloppy receiver, just running around, sloppy jalopy, over there looking for a freaking ice cream cone out in the end zone somewhere. I don't know where he's at, but he's just awful. I mean, he is what he is. He's a big body receiver.
So because Zay Jones has upside, that's why you like him?
Yeah, absolutely, because his draft position's better than what you're going to get Kelvin Benjamin at. And I think that he's a more athletic guy who could be able to go ahead and get some separation and get open. That's why I like Zay Jones more.
That's fair, but you know what we can come back to and agree upon?
What?
Terrible quarterbacks.
100% terrible quarterbacks. Maybe they'll go out and get someone.
Maybe they'll have to. Last wide receiver that I'm probably just going to say his name and move on is Jeremy Curley. Acquired him from New York.
Yeah, at least he didn't have to move far.
That's what.
Hopefully he didn't unpack.
He's not going to get you a lot of points. Not going to get a lot of points per game, and his ADP is undrafted. He is wide receiver 3 in Buffalo, but that is behind Benjamin, Zay Jones. You got Charles Clay, tight end. You got LaShawn McCoy out of the backfield. So really, it's like their 5th option, and honestly, probably the 6th option. Because if I saw Jeremy Curley open and no one else, I'd probably just run it or throw it to myself.
Bingo.
All right. Finally, the tight end in Buffalo is Charles Clay. Kind of exciting, not quite a tight end 1, but an okay option.
Don't know what that sound was.
Because what is Charles Clay? What is he? Is he your backup tight end that you never start, and you just hope your tight end 1 doesn't get injured?
No, he's startable. He's absolutely startable. He had some great games last year.
He did.
Like we said, we're already going to be looking for checkdowns. So to me, Charles Clay is a guy, no, not super athletic, no, not going to just blow you away. But him and the running backs are going to catch passes because A.J. McCryan and freaking Josh Allen aren't going to be able to find the receivers that very, very well. And the receivers aren't that great anyway. So to me, I like Charles Clay. I think that he's not going to be my tight end 1. But if my tight end 1 gets hurt or if I need a fill-in option, absolutely I'll look at Charles Clay.
Okay. Well, his ADP is undrafted. So you can probably pick him up in free agency. You don't have to spend a draft pick on him. Even better.
Maybe I will. I won't even spend a lot of fab to get him either.
You probably shouldn't. And points per game, points 82, points per game 5. Again, folks, that is standard. I apologize. You can add some points to that if you want to do PPR. But I think, like you said, Charles Clay could be a decent option if you really needed to go that route. Hopefully you don't, because it's Charles Clay. All right, you want to pick it up with Miami?
All right, let's get into some meat and potatoes here. And by that, I mean it's all potatoes. It's not even gravy. It's just gross. There's no meat here.
It's erroneous.
I'm not a big fan of this team breaking it down whenever I looked at it. So we'll start with Ryan Tannehill. He's got an APD of 222. So
hold on, what'd you say? APD?
ADP.
You said APD.
ADP, yeah, the Alamogordo Police Department.
Oh, okay.
All right, so Albuquerque Police Department. 222, 26 quarterback taken overall. He is going to be a QB2 or streaming option for me. I will probably never, ever start Ryan Tannehill unless I just have 0 options. He's actually, but the thing is he's actually outperformed this ADP most of his career when you look at him on the end of the season. However, on a points per game basis, it's almost his perfect spot to take him. He normally finishes about 24th overall, 26th overall.
What's his points per game?
In points per game. I don't actually have that in front of me. It was like 14 points per game is about what he gets.
That's not
average.
bad.
It's not great. So
it's not bad.
Okay, well he has lost. He did lose Jarvis Landry, which could hurt his value, and Albert Wilson and Amendola have been added, but the wide receiver core is old, and the tight ends are underwhelming. We'll say that.
I'm very much looking forward to Miami tight end, but
it won't take long.
Anyway, Ryan Tannehill, Texas A&M Aggie, so I got to stand by my guy. I think he's athletic, and I think he will have a much better year this year than last year.
We know he's athletic because in college he started out as a quarterback, and then they said he was so athletic, we'll make you a wide receiver because you're not a great quarterback.
Exactly.
And then they had more lack of options, so they brought him back to quarterback.
That's because they just loved him so much, and you should too.
Because he's not that great.
He's not that bad.
Overall grade I gave him was a D, and that's a hard D, okay?
You know who would be happy to take him? Buffalo.
Yeah, well, maybe. I'm projecting 3,900 yards, which I still feel, honestly, might even be a little high.
How many yards?
3,900. 24 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. You know, normally, like for the past 3 or 4 years, he's outside of last year, obviously, he's thrown about 12 interceptions a year. He had one outlier where he threw 17. So I'm saying 14. Throwing 14 interceptions out there. I'm projecting 150 rushing yards if he actually runs the ball with that torn ACL. And then he's had at least one rushing touchdown every year since he's been a starting quarterback.
Well, there you go.
One rushing, so there's something.
There's a bright spot.
Yeah, there's a little bright spot. A little ray of sunshine. 245 points overall. Don't do it. So next, Kenyon Drake, ADP of 39.7. He's actually being taken as the 20th running back overall. He's actually going right now between Darius Geis and Alex Collins. And I would take those guys over him, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, Geis and Collins over Kenyon Drake.
Wow.
The main reason that I'm saying that is because the Miami has they're not really willing to commit to him. I mean, they haven't done it so far. He's been on the team for a few years now. This is not like he's new. And you know,
they got rid of Ajayi.
They shipped Ajayi out, but they brought in Frank Gore. And it wasn't like
you think Frank Gore is going to be their running back one?
Hey, Frank Gore's there, and they drafted Kalen Ballage. So to me, I think that it's easy that they could go ahead and move him out. And we know that they're not afraid to go away from a running back. They did it last year. Luckily, Ajayi got a Super Bowl on it, so no big deal there. To me, he's going to catch some passes, but the other guys are going to take a little bit of work from him because Kenyon Drake doesn't have the type of body that's going to be able to handle a full load all season.
Maybe that's why they got Frank Gore.
Well, maybe, because we know that he's actually pretty solid. I'm going to go ahead and project 750 yards, 6 touchdowns, 35 receptions for 270 yards. That's where he's going to make your money at, and 1 receiving touchdown. I'm giving him an overall grade of B-, 179 points. The biggest reason, like I said, is they're not willing to commit to him. It's not that I don't like him and I don't like his talent. I mean, he could have done really well, but he still finished as a running back 32 overall last year in PPR.
That's like half a season.
I understand it's half a season, but he still isn't going to blow you away. All right. So now the wide receivers, which upon looking at this depth chart, made me want to throw up. Because Devontae Parker, man, nothing but hype every single year. And I got to be honest with you guys, I'm done biting on this. I keep buying into it, and I keep buying into it. Now I'm hearing great things. He's the first one in the building. He looks like he's in great shape. He's studying really hard. Last year, Jay Cutler was like, yeah, he's just like Alshon Jeffrey, only bigger. Yeah, I thought everyone's going to be his year. Every year. It's never his year. Don't do it. His ADP is 96th. He's the 40th wide receiver overall. There's some guys going around him. Cooper Kupp, Marquise Goodwin, and Jamison Crowder. And I like all of them better. Just because he's the number 1 wide receiver does not mean that he is a good wide receiver. Okay? I'm projecting 800 yards, 60 receptions, 3 touchdowns, 158 points. And those projections are simply because he is the number 1 wide receiver. He is. But the guy who I think is actually going to take a lot of that work from him, Danny Amendola. Danny Amendola, if he stays healthy, that's actually what's going to eat into Devontae Parker's value. Danny Amendola, he's going over right now as of 148th in ADP, 58th wide receiver overall. He just can't stay healthy. That's really the whole problem. But he's going to be the guy running a lot of those crossing routes, taking over some of that Jarvis Landry stuff that we know. Because we know Ryan Tannehill can't throw it deep very well. It's pretty well documented.
You know what made Danny Amendola so favorable?
What?
Tom Brady.
Actually, he was actually pretty decent in St. Louis as well.
You know who he doesn't have? Tom Brady.
Yeah, but he was actually pretty good in St. Louis as well. I mean, that's what they appealed to him when he was performing well there.
Yeah, about a decade ago.
It wasn't that long ago, but either way, not healthy. But he's what's going to hurt Devontae Parker's value. So I'm giving both of those guys a B-, and it would be higher for Amendola if I felt like he would stay healthy, but I just don't trust him. I got him for 460 yards, 45 receptions, 3 touchdowns, 109 fantasy points. Then there's Kenny Stills, who's on the depth chart. He's actually the wide receiver too, but do you really care? He's a field stretcher. I gave him an overall grade of C. 149 points is what I'm projecting. 6 touchdowns. He's going to get touchdowns, but he's not going to get a lot of catches. Somewhere in the 40 to 50 range for catches. So then there's your boy, Mike Gesicki.
You're really kicking off tight ends with him?
He's the only tight end.
No, he's not.
He is. Who else they got?
That's what you're supposed to tell me.
Mike Gesicki. He's the guy they're projecting as their number 1.
This story just gets better by the day.
The Lost Boy himself. That's what I wrote on here. I typed that up. The Lost Boy. I'm coining that. He's the Lost Boy. So there were reports coming out of him running around the field like a blind person, not knowing what's going on. This is Mike Gesicki, the guy that they drafted to be their tight end. All the hype in college, all the talent in the world. But that learning curve for tight end in the NFL is steep. We hope that he gets out of it, but based on those reports, I'm not very hopeful. Oh, that's a nice beer you got there. I don't have one. I have to drive. I'm responsible. 400 yards, 39 receptions, 3 touchdowns. I'm projecting that because that's about what these Miami tight ends have been getting over the years, but you haven't really even had a lot of production out of any of them underneath Ryan Tannehill. So Mike Gesicki might be the best one out of the bunch that we've seen in quite some time, but he didn't do anything with Julius Thomas. I'm just not banking on this. To me, this is an offense that I'm not excited about. So good luck with that. I wouldn't draft Gesicki either. If I'm going to take anyone off of this team, I would take Kenyon Drake, but he'd have to fall a little bit further than that ADP. And I would take Danny Amendola because he's going so late. I feel like you might be able to steal some value there. Don't buy into the Devontae Parker hype until after this year, probably, because it's just not good. All right.
So negative. All right. New York Jets, that other team in New York. And Brad the dad got this one, so we're going to hand it over to Brad now. Brad, take it away.
Thanks, Pat. Let me tell you about the New York Jets. Talk about a team you can't get excited for. No player I'm going to talk about gave me any upside or any potential that really got me super excited about a fantasy. Let's just jump right into it here with the quarterbacks. You got Josh McCown. He's never finished a full season. ADP has him at the 32nd quarterback taken. 32nd. There's 32 teams in the league. Not good. Josh Rosen's going over him. He finished last season as quarterback 21 with only 13 games played. Had he finished a full 16-game schedule with his projected points and how many points he scored every game, he probably would have finished around quarterback 13 to 14. So he's not a bad streamer candidate. They traded pretty much all their future for Sam Darnold to move up in the draft and get Sam Darnold. So what does this mean about his future? I mean, he is an older quarterback, so probably going to start the season. But I see him benching him or injuries taking him out of the season later. Grade's going to be a C. It's not exciting. But like I said, you can stream. He has 3 great matchups to start the season off. So you could probably get some value there if you draft him really, really, really late. And just take a flyer on him. 2019, my projected points. I got him at just over 2,000 yards with 10 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And rushing yards, he's just going to fall forward for, a few yards. Total points, 120 points. Like I said, not exciting, but if you think this is probably only going to be about 8-9 games, that's not bad numbers for a streamer. Then let's go to Sam Darnold. Like I said, they traded up to get him. Reports are that he may start as an inactive. I don't understand what the Jets are doing with the young quarterbacks they're taking. If you're going to take a quarterback in the draft, you need to develop them. Setting the bench does not help develop a quarterback. The Jets are going to be bad, so they'll probably start him. similar to what the Bears did last year with Mitchell Trubisky. Grade F. I'm not excited about Sam Darnold at all. Rookie quarterback with the lack of weapons he has does not bode well for his year. Yards, 942 yards, 6 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, maybe 40 yards rushing. That's a total points of 48.18 points. Not good at all. Then let's move over to the wide receivers. Doesn't get any better here. You got Terrell Pryor, ADP round 14. Robbie Anderson, ADP round 9. And Quincy Enunwa, ADP 16th round. So let's start with Terrell Pryor. He's had one good year in Cleveland when he was super targeted with 140 targets. He's coming off an ankle surgery last year and just an overall bad year. Grade for Terrell Pryor, low C minus. Let's see here. Projected points. Let's give him 40 receptions, 700 yards, 3 touchdowns, 129 points. Robbie Anderson, he's going to probably start the year suspended after the offseason misconduct he had. He was their best receiver last year. Probably the best option this year too. Grade is maybe a B if you can get him late. But like I said, we'll see what the suspension holds. Right now, though, there's projections. 53 receptions, 700 yards, 4 touchdowns, 149 points. Quincy Enunwa. Right here is the steal that you can probably get. Round 16 is his ADP, like I said earlier. He missed all of 2017 with a neck surgery. Says he's close to 100%. Had a pretty breakout year 2 years ago. Projections for him, 43 receptions, 550 yards, 2 touchdowns, 110 points. Still not good. The last guy is Jermaine Kearse. His ADP is like round 17, 18, almost undrafted. And he's a possible cut candidate in the offseason, so I didn't even project points out for him. Last position we're going to talk about is the running back. This is a whole running back by committee. It's a gross situation altogether. You got Isaiah Crowell, ADP, round 7. He's going to be a first and second down back. His grade's a C. I'm not excited about Isaiah Crowell. He didn't have a great year last year with Cleveland. He doesn't do great in the first and second down back only role. He's a plotter. He needs multiple carries, and I don't think with as bad as his defense is going to be, with a lack of great quarterback play and weapons all around, that he's going to get much better than he did last year. So 700 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, maybe 22 receptions with about 150 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. Gives him 141 points. Not good at all. Bilal Powell, round 12. He's probably going to come in as their spell, third down back, mixing in with Crowell. C minus grade, just because I believe Crowell will be the starter. 500 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, 38 yards receiving, maybe 200 yards receiving, and then 1 receiving touchdown for a total points of 138.5. So really close to Crowell. They're going to be mixing them up. And then the last 2 is Elijah McGuire and Thomas Rawls. Their ADP is setting around 19 or 20. And like I said, it's a running back by committee. If these guys get work too, all that does is take away from the other 2, and you don't know what they're going to do. So watch this preseason to see how the Jets actually use their running backs. I didn't talk about the tight end position because there's really no good tight end in New York. Like I said, the whole team is possibly streamers, and that's about it. The S in Jets stands for streaming options. All right. Thanks, guys. What do you think?
All right, Brad. Good job. I like your analysis for the most part, and I agree with it because the Jets are a train wreck. But the person who I really want to like on this team, and I don't know if I can, is Isaiah Crowell. I swear, I just keep thinking that breakout's kind of almost like a Devontae Parker type situation.
You think he's going to break out?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I know. I want it. I want it real bad.
Well, you know what you say.
Yeah, that's true. We do have a little expression around here about wanting stuff. But, yeah, he's just not going to be the guy that's going to do it for you. So, I don't know. I mean, if you want just a number 1 wide receiver, great. Then the last guy I kind of want to hit on real quick is Quincy Enunwa. If that neck is right, Quincy Enunwa did have a lot of upside, and he showed some flashes that year before he got hurt.
I'm sorry, who's their quarterback?
In New York?
Yeah.
Sam Darnold.
Is he going to start?
Teddy Bridgewater. Josh McCown. Josh McCown actually wasn't a bad quarterback last year. And Robbie Anderson, if he can, I just don't know, man.
I like Robbie Anderson.
I do too, but I don't like the fact that he's a criminal. All right. So let's you got anything you want to say about the Jets?
Do I have anything I want to add to the New York Jets?
Yeah.
No, I have nothing to add to the New York Jets. I think Brad hit it on the head. They're a train wreck of a team. They have a few fantasy-relevant players, much like Buffalo and Miami. And I really don't think there's anything to add and waste our time on those other teams. Really apologize to those other teams and the fans of those teams. Good for you for being fans of those teams, but let's talk about Goliath over here.
Okay.
The reason the Patriots go to the playoffs every year has a lot to do with those other teams just being perennially bad.
They're perennial losers.
They are. And it doesn't help that New England's a dynasty with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
Okay, well, all right.
Is that wrong?
No, let's keep going.
Okay, it goes New England Patriots now. Final team we're going to talk about in the AFC East, defending division champs, AFC champs. Surprise, surprise.
All right.
2017 record 13-3, secured the number one seed in the playoffs, and eventually winning the AFC Championship game, but falling short in the Super Bowl. Not going to talk about that. 2 reasons to like the Patriots' odds in 2018: Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
Okay, great. I'm glad you like their odds. All right, let's just get into the fantasy portion of this.
All right, well, people want to know these things.
We know you could do this all day about the
I
Patriots.
really could. Tom Brady, the GOAT. Endo story. Age doesn't matter when you have the TB12 method and Rob Gronkowski. Also, another thing that helps Tom Brady is that the fact that he holds the ball for an average of 3 seconds before he gets rid of it. So the O-line doesn't really matter at that point because I don't know too many defenders that can get to the quarterback in under 3 seconds. Do you?
Von Miller.
Other than Von Miller. I didn't say any defender. I said
I remember that AFC Championship game specifically.
He's the defending league MVP at age 41 for a reason. Okay. He's Tom Brady. 2018 grade of A+++. Projections here are
plus.
Projections here are 4,750 yards, 32 touchdowns, 9 picks. I think that's way too high. It's going to be much fewer than that. And 36 rush yards for 1 touchdown. We'll talk about why that's relevant. He's going to get you 308 points. Again, standard, whatever. Points per game is pretty similar, though. We'll get you about 19, and his ADP is 60. The reason the rush yards is significant is because does anyone know how many rush yards Tom Brady needs to get to 1,000?
Yeah, it's 36 yards.
No, 32.
32, whatever.
Yep.
I know that's why you wanted that.
Well, that's why he's playing this year.
That's not why he's playing.
Yeah, it is. He needs to get to 1,000 rush yards. Anyway,
TB1K.
Tom Brady, he's QB1, any fantasy league, standard PPR, doesn't matter. He's up there. When we did our QB rankings, he was, top 3 with Aaron and who else? Deshaun Watson, maybe?
No, he was right behind Aaron Rodgers, and rightfully so. I don't have a problem with that.
I could talk about Tom Brady all day, but I won't because it's pretty cut and dry. Him and Aaron Rodgers, just pen him in for any game except the bye week.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Now, running back by committee, New England. Running backs in New England are actually kind of scary because you really don't know who the guy is going to be for that week. Kind of like Green Bay is running back by committee. And, yeah, we talk about like running back by committees. It's kind of a term thrown around in football, right? And some of those terms, they're just like running back by like tandem. Like take Buffalo, for example. You got Ivory and McCoy. And really, it's just McCoy back there. This is running back by city council, it feels like, in New England.
Oh, my gosh, I hate it.
It is so – it's not bad for them. It's bad for fantasy purposes, though.
Oh.
All right, we'll talk about Rex Burkhead here. Second year with New England. Played pretty well towards the middle and end of the season, but did suffer some injury setbacks. But with the absence of Dion Lewis, I think Rex Burkhead numbers will spike a little bit. Him and James White should see good amounts of production. But also you got that new shiny rookie, too, that we're going to talk about a little bit, too, and see what he might do this year. Anyway, projections for Burkhead is 550 yards with 6 rushing touchdowns, 33 receptions for 300 yards, and 2 reception touchdowns. We'll just do ADP of 86.
2 reception touchdowns.
Yeah. Receiving touchdowns?
Yeah, most some people say receiving. I mean, that's fine. It's fine.
All right, you know what? I'm trying to read and talk here.
I actually, out of all the running backs here, I think Rex Burkhead is my favorite for fantasy.
From New England, yeah.
Yeah, especially now with Julian Edelman coming out those first 4 games, it's going to be very important. They got rid of their outside receiver in Brandon Cooks. Rex Burkhead, they lined him up a lot out of the slot last year.
They did that to James White, too.
Yeah, but Rex Burkhead was the guy, when he was healthy, he was getting you points. It was obvious to me that they liked Rex Burkhead a little bit more than James White. I like him a lot. His ADP might be a little bit high, but I think if you, depending on what your options are at that point, he could easily be a guy who's going to have a lot of value for you.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think you draft him, James White, 2 of more solid running back options out of New England. Jeremy Hill. Not going to talk about Jeremy Hill. Projections are really low. The reason being, he's probably going to get cut, and if he doesn't get cut, he's not going to see a lot of playing time. Also, you can say the same about Mike Gillislee. They didn't really like him last year. I don't think they're going to like him this year. I don't think he's going to get a lot of work. He got a lot of goal line work in week 1, and he actually had a really good week 1, and after that it was nothing.
Yeah, one of these guys is not making the team.
Yeah, I would say Jeremy Hill, if I had to guess anyone. But Mike Gillislee isn't worth a draft pick, neither is Jeremy Hill.
Yeah.
James White, 5th year with New England, decent option, PPR leagues. Wouldn't really go after him, standard format leagues. Has at least 1 reception in all but 1 game last year, so that's pretty good. And his 2018 grade for me is a B+. His projections, 391 yards, 3 touchdowns, 53 receptions for 426 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. ADP is 135. So it's about middle of the pack there.
So you gave James White the same grade that you gave LaShawn McCoy. B+.
Yeah.
You feel like they're equals.
Yeah.
I could not. I have to disagree with that.
Yeah, no, maybe that grade is a little high.
Okay, thank you. Good talk. I'm just glad I pointed that out. I just wanted to see where your head was.
I did New England way early, and I just got excited about it.
Okay, all right. Let's keep going.
Anything you want to add to James White?
No, actually, I do like James White.
You don't think he's a B+?
I don't think he's a B+, especially if Sean McCoy is a B+, because you're going to get James White a lot later. It's just the whole thing with that backfield, man. I don't know. I'm always worried to line up a New England guy. You never know what you're going to get with these guys. I mean, last year I had a playoff game. I started Rex Burkhead. He went off in PPR the first half of the game, and he never got another look. I don't even think he was on the field the second half against Miami in that game. I mean, it was just a nightmare for me. And all I needed him to do was catch one more pass. I lost the game.
Can't do that.
Yeah, no. So this whole running back thing is it's messed up. So I'll let you finish with your last guy.
All right. Speaking of messed up, I'm going to talk about Sony PlayStation. Yeah. Sony Michel, first year in the league, first year with New England, drafted 31st. So clearly New England likes this guy. Willing to spend such a high draft pick on him. What to expect from Sony? Is he the replacement of Deion Lewis? Maybe. Some people are starting to think that. He's looking okay in camp. I'm going to give him 2018 grade a C. His projections are 535 yards for 5 touchdowns, 28 receptions for 240 yards, and 1 touchdown, 1 receiving touchdown. Surprisingly very high ADP, and I don't know why. ADP of 47. That makes no sense to me. Can you make sense of it?
Well, I mean, I think the big thing is that people see him as the RB1 in that backfield.
Not.
In that backfield.
He's not.
I understand a lot of people who don't know the ins and outs of the New England Patriots like you. You have to understand that a lot of people aren't, half of the people who are out there playing football, it could be their first time, second time. They don't know that much about it. To me, you just see a guy that jumps off the field, jumps off the page. He's the number one guy. They draft him to be the number one guy. But me and in New England, he might not even see the field for 3 years.
Yeah.
We don't even.
Jonas Gray. He's the number one guy once too.
Yeah. Jonas Gray, 4 touchdowns, and then he got cut. So I just temper your expectations with him so far. All right, so we'll go ahead and get into your next guy.
All right. We'll just talk about this next guy because it's going to be real quick. Rob Gronkowski. Same thing as Tom Brady. Just tight end one option. He's the top 3 tight ends with Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce. Start him every week as long as he's healthy and not body slamming people and gets suspended. Projections, 72 receptions for 1,125 yards with 8 receiving touchdowns. ADP is 24, which I thought was actually kind of high. I thought it would be a little lower, honestly, for Gronk.
He's always the first one off the board.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Do you think he'll still be the first one off the board this year with Ertz?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Gronk he's the man. I mean, he is.
He is the man, and also Edelman being out could also help.
And I love it when people take him because then it frees up other players for me, like running backs and wide receivers, who I still take that early. So, but yeah,
Gronk. What do you mean frees you up? If he's on the board, you taking him?
No, because someone else is going to take him that early around one of my picks, and then I'm going to be able to go ahead and sneak in and get another top wide receiver or running back because they're worried about Gronk. With the injury history and then, him over there doing elbow drops off the top rope, he's not stable. And honestly, I'm going to give you a little hot take here. I think this is his last year in New England. I think this is it. So you say whatever you want about that. But
watch your mouth.
All right. We got to keep rolling here. We got to keep rolling.
All right, fine. We'll get into the wide receivers now. A little more steady here in New England than the running backs. Julian Edelman, 10th season with New England. Coming off that suspension for PEDs, losing him for the first 4 games, then you lose him in the bye week in week 11. You will be drafting Julian Edelman knowing you do not have him for 5 weeks, guaranteed, done. Doesn't even matter. You could get injured, you could lose him for 1 more week. So that's 11 weeks you will have Julian Edelman. All right, if my math serves me right. Projection, 78 receptions for 930 yards and 5 touchdowns, ADP of 72. So 10-team league. What does that mean? 7th round, right?
Yep. 7th round. Pretty good deal, in a 10-team league, but he's going to get more value to me in PPR. I like Julian Edelman, but the suspension thing coming off the ACL, if he really is suspended for these first 4 games, so it was for an unknown substance. Like, they don't know what the heck it is. They can't even identify it yet. So if
it's fake news.
Yeah, so if he actually is suspended, with the older age, the knee, to me, it's just red flags everywhere. I'm just going to have to get great value on him in order. Like, my team has to be set. My starting lineup has to be set for me to even mess with this guy. And I'm not talking tight ends and quarterbacks, but the upside is there. I mean, we had him projected as a top 15 wide receiver, I believe. So he could do that. But he's not going to be top 15 missing 5 games of your fantasy season. So
no chance. Next guy up, Chris Hogan. Like what I did there. Next guy up. All right, Hogan's appeal goes up with the departure of Amendola and the suspension of Edelman. Proven to be a reliable slot option for Brady. Has a decent speed to spread the secondary and possibly run some seam routes down the sideline if he can remain healthy. So I expect him to get off to a hot start actually in 2018. I give him a grade of a B. You can see 55 receptions for 820 yards and 5 touchdowns. ADP right now is 65, so he's going ahead of Edelman, which makes a lot of sense.
Well, I'm just waiting for them to go down to Walmart, grab another bagger, a little white wide receiver, and throw him in there and see what happens.
Well, he's a lacrosse player, so.
Okay, well, all right.
Malcolm Mitchell, he was a rookie for that Super Bowl win back in 2016. He didn't play much in 2017 because of injuries, so now he's coming into his 3rd year, more like his 2nd year because he didn't play pretty much at all last year. Could be a breakout, especially since he'll see more time now that Amendola's gone, Edelman's suspended. It's hard to say, though, right now, just because we haven't really seen much of him in camp or much from him in camp. And also, believe it or not, wide receiver depth chart for New England's pretty deep. They also have Kenny Britt, who they like. They have Philip Dorsett, who hasn't proven anything. Jordan Matthews, who they just brought in. Cordell Patterson, who's, let's be honest, is just a special teamer. And Braxton Berrios, who they drafted out of Florida, who probably isn't going to see much of the field this year.
Berrios.
But anyway,
Braxton Berrios.
I would take Jordan Matthews and Kenny Britt over Malcolm Mitchell. Here's why. Matthews, you can expect 105 points with an ADP of 162, and Britt 90 points for 185 ADP. Again, standard format. I do apologize, but I think Kenny Britt and Jordan Matthews will give you more projection, especially Jordan Matthews. I think Jordan Matthews, your wide receiver 3, once Edelman comes back. So that means he's going to bump up to wide receiver 2.
I just have to say I'm really glad you did this because to me, New England's web of lies, and I mean that in the sense that I never know what they're doing. This would have been so difficult to decipher. I would have had a headache for days just analyzing this. So hats off to you, man. Thanks. Appreciate that.
None of that's a compliment, and I know it.
No, it's not. I'm 100% serious. Like this would have sucked because I mean I see these names on the board. I'm looking at Jordan Matthews. Oh, I really like that guy. Philip Dorsett, Kenny Britt. To me, these are guys that they could be something. They were something at some point. And
don't draft Dorsett. Patterson's there for special teams. Burrios won't see the field. Mitchell's going to be your wide receiver 5 in New England.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that the names look like they're something, but they're I don't know. It's just a web of lies, is what I mean. And Bill Belichick could be hot on you one minute and cold on you the next.
Yes, it's very true.
I'm just glad I'm not dating the guy.
All right, that wraps it up for the New England Patriots. Yeah, I'm not even going to respond to the last comment.
Well, let's close this bad boy out then.
You got anything to add about the AFC East there, Josh?
No, the AFC East will only have one playoff team this year. We know which playoff team that will be. So, good for New England. Everyone else, just get better for crying out loud.
Keep on trying.
This is embarrassing. All right. I'm ready for the AFC South next week. A little bit more excitement.
Yes, AFC South next week, so tune in for that. Some hot takes coming out of the AFC South. Definitely some exciting teams and exciting talent down there that the guys here at Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast will be analyzing. So thanks for joining us for another episode of the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your co-host, Pat Curran. Join with me, as always, Josh the Boss and Brad the Dad. Thanks for sharing your time with us. See ya.
Later, taters.